Hello, everyone. So my name is Chastity Armenta, and today I will be presenting my peer review analysis on ultra processed food consumption, also known as UPFs, and the risk of all-cause mortality. This presentation will summarize a systematic review and meta-analysis of prospective cohort studies that will examine how eating ultra-processed foods relates to overall cause mortality. So first, I'm going to explain some background information and the importance of this topic. So worldwide consumption of ultra-processed foods has risen dramatically, but their impact on all-cause mortality remains uncertain. So the purpose of this review is to combine prospective evidence of UPF intake and mortality to calculate pooled risk, estimate using random effects meta-analysis. The target population for generalization is adults who participated in prospective cohort studies across multiple countries, making these findings most relevant to similar adult populations. Next, as I mentioned before, the study design is a systematic review and meta-analysis of prospective cohort studies. From nearly 7,000 unique citations, the author included 40 cohort representing more than 5.7 million participants, with publications ranging from 1984 to 2021. They searched 5 major bibliographic databases to identify eligible studies. So some recruitment and comparative comparatory groups. Inclusion required prospective cohorts that reported UPF intake and all-cause mortality outcomes. Because these were observational studies, there was no randomization. The analysis compared the highest versus the lowest UPF intake within each cohort, pooling their adjusted estimates to reduce confounding and ensure comparability across each study. Some statistics that the author pulled were random effect models to calculate pool relative risk and 95% confidence intervals, CIs. They look not only for overall UPF consumption, but also at key categories such as sugar, sweetened beverages, artificial sweetened beverages, processed or red meat, and breakfast cereals. All the estimates were derived from a multivariable model to account for potential confounding factors. Univariate analysis was not the focus. So to give you some numbers on that, these are the results from those pool estimates. So the findings were clear and consistent. Overall, ultra-processed foods consumption was associated with a 29% highest risk of all-cause mortality, including the sugar beverages, the artificial sweetened beverages, and processed meats. Interestingly enough, breakfast cereals were linked to a low mortality risk with a relative risk of 0.85. So some of the conclusions that the author made were high consumption of ultra-processed foods are linked to increased all-cause mortality. Also, conversely, breakfast cereal intake was associated with a low mortality risk. They emphasized the need for standardized methods to classify ultra-processed foods so that future studies can produce more consistent findings. Some criticism would be like this review, it aligns with like a large cohort and meta-analysis. The strengthenings of confidence in the findings, there's strength in the confidence of the findings, but however, um, the studies are observational. We cannot infer casualty. Exposure misclassification is possible since UPF intake was self-reported, and residual confounding from unmeasured diet or lifestyle factors may also remain despite adjustments. Some biases and limitations to this article. There are several limitations. First, self-reported dietary data and verifying definitions of ultra-processed food may have introduced exposure misclassification. Um, the healthy user effect may partly explain the inverse association for breakfast cereal. Finally, between studies and potential publications, bias are also possible. Next, we're going to talk about some things that we can apply to future research. The most applicable to adults with diets similar to those in included cohorts. They may not generalize to children, adolescents, or populations with different dietary patterns. So we want to implement that if we were to do this in the future. Also, you would want to include a long-term randomized dietary intervention that deliberately reduces UPF consumption. So you can have measurable clinical endpoints, and it would help clarify casualty. And so that is all I have in my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you were able to learn something from me. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.